It is years since the incidents of which I speak took place, and yet it is with diffidence that I allude to them. We had been out for one of our evening rambles, Holmes and I, and had returned about 6 o'clock on a cold, frosty winter's evening. As Holmes turned up the lamp, the light fell upon a card on the table. He glanced at it, and then, with an ejaculation of disgust, threw it on the floor. I picked it up and read.
Powerless Augustus Milverton, Appledore Towers, Hampstead, I asked.
The worst man in London,
Holmes answered, as he sat down and stretched his legs before the fire.
Is anything on the back of the card?
I turned it over.
We'll call it 63M.
I read.
He's about due. Do you feel a creeping, shrinking sensation, Watson, when you stand before the serpents in the zoo and see the slithery, gliding, venomous creatures with their deadly eyes and wicked, flattened faces? Well, that's how Milverton impresses me. I've had to do with 50 murderers in my career, but the worst of them never gave me the repulsion which I have for this fellow. He is the king of all the blackmailers. Heaven help the man, and still more the woman, whose secret and reputation come into the power of Milverton. With a smiling face and a heart of marble, he will squeeze and squeeze until he has drained them dry.
At that instant there was a clatter and a rattle in the street below. Looking down I saw a stately carriage and pair. A footman opened the door, and a small, stout man in a shaggy astrakhan overcoat descended. Charles Augustus Milverton was a man of 50, with a large, intellectual head, a round, plump, hairless face, a perpetual frozen smile, and 2 keen gray eyes, which gleamed brightly from behind broad, gold-rimmed glasses.
"This gentleman,"
said he, with a wave in my direction.
"Is it discreet? Is it right?"
Dr. Watson is my friend and partner.
"Very good, Mr. Holmes. It is only in your client's interest that I protested. The matter is so very delicate. Then we can proceed to business. You say that you are acting for Lady Eva. Has she empowered you to accept my terms?"
What are your terms?
£7,000.
And the alternative?
"My dear sir, it is painful for me to discuss it, but if the money is not paid on the 14th, there certainly will be no marriage on the 18th.
I shall counsel her to tell her future husband the whole story, and to trust to his generosity."
"You evidently do not know the Earl,"
said he.
Lady Eva is not a wealthy woman. I assure you that £2,000 would be a drain upon her resources, and that the sum you name is utterly beyond her power.
"Let me assure them that this little bundle of letters would give more joy than all the candelabra and butter dishes in London."
That is impossible,
said Holmes.
Dear me, how unfortunate!"
cried Milverton, taking out a bulky pocketbook.
"Look at this! That belongs to. Well, perhaps it is hardly fair to tell the name until tomorrow morning, but at that time it will be in the hands of the lady's husband."
Get behind him, Watson! Don't let him out! Now, sir, let us see the contents of that notebook.
Mr. Holmes,
he said, turning the front of his coat and exhibiting the butt of a large revolver.
I have been expecting you to do something original. I have 1 or 2 little interviews this evening, and it is a long drive to Hampstead.
He stepped forward, took up his coat, laid his hand on his revolver, and turned to the door. Holmes sat motionless by the fire, his hands buried deep in his trouser pockets, his chin sunk upon his breast, his eyes fixed upon the glowing embers. Then, he sprang to his feet and passed into his bedroom. A little later a rakish young workman, with a goatee beard and a swagger, lit his clay pipe at the lamp.
I'll be back some time, Watson,
said he, and vanished into the night. I understood that he had opened his campaign against Charles Augustus Milverton. For some days Holmes came and went at all hours in this attire. At last, on a wild, tempestuous evening, he returned and laughed heartily.
You'll be interested to hear that I'm engaged.
To Milverton's housemaid.
I wanted information, Watson. I am a plumber with a rising business, a Scot by name. I have walked out with her each evening. I know Milverton's house as I know the palm of my hand. Watson, I mean to burgle Milverton's house tonight.
I had a catching of the breath.
For heaven's sake, Holmes, think what you are doing.
My dear fellow, I have given it every consideration. Tomorrow is the last day of grace, and unless we can get the letters tonight, this villain will bring about her ruin. I must play this last card.
When do we start?
You are not coming.
Then you are not going. I will give you away, unless you let me share this adventure with you.
Well, be it so. See here.
He took a neat little leather case out of a drawer.
This is a first-class, up-to-date burgling kit with nickel-plated jemmy. Have you a pair of silent shoes?
I have rubber-soled tennis shoes.
Excellent. And a mask?
I can make a couple out of black silk.
Holmes and I put on our dress clothes. In Oxford Street we picked up a hansom and drove to an address in Hampstead. It was bitterly cold, and the wind seemed to blow through us. We walked along the edge of the heath.
It's a business that needs delicate treatment,
Said.
These documents are contained in a safe in the fellow's study. This is the house. Through the gate. Now to the right among the laurels. We might put on our masks here.
With our black silk face coverings, which turned us into two of the most truculent figures in London, we stole up to the silent, gloomy house.
Come round here. There's a greenhouse which opens into the drawing room.
The place was locked, but Holmes removed a circle of glass and turned the key from the inside. An instant afterwards he had closed the door behind us. The thick, warm air of the conservatory and the rich, choking fragrance of exotic plants took us by the throat. We passed along a passage and Holmes very gently opened a door. Something rushed out at us and my heart sprang into my mouth, but it was the cat. We were in Milverton's study. It was a good fire, and the room was illuminated by it. In the corner stood a tall, green safe, the firelight flashing back from the polished brass knobs. I examined the outer door. To my amazement it was neither locked nor bolted. I touched Holmes on the arm.
I don't like it,
he whispered.
I can't quite make it out.
Holmes worked with concentrated energy. Finally I heard a click, the broad green door swung open, and inside I had a glimpse of a number of paper packets. Suddenly I saw him halt, listen intently, and then in an instant he had swung the door of the safe to, stuffed his tools into the pockets, and darted behind the window curtain. The door opened. There was a sharp snick as the electric light was turned on. The door closed once more, and the pungent reek of a strong cigar was borne to our nostrils. Right in front of us was the broad, rounded back of Milverton. He was leaning far back in the red leather chair, a long black cigar projecting at an angle from his mouth. He held a long, legal document which he was reading in an indolent fashion, blowing rings of tobacco smoke from his lips. There was no promise of a speedy departure. I felt Holmes's hand steal into mine and give me a reassuring shake. I was not sure whether he had seen that the door of the safe was imperfectly closed. Then there came a gentle tap at the door. Milverton rose and opened it.
Well, you are nearly half an hour late.
There stood a tall, slim, dark woman, a veil over her face. Her breath came quick and fast, and every inch of the lithe figure was quivering with strong emotion.
You say that you have 5 letters which compromise the Countess d'Albert. You want to sell them. I want to buy them. Let us get down to business. I should want to inspect the letters, of course. If they are really good specimens, great heavens, is it you?
The woman had raised her veil.
It is I, the woman whose life you have ruined.
You were so very obstinate. Why did you drive me to such extremities? I put the price well within your means. You would not pay.
So you sent the letters to my husband, and he broke his gallant heart and died. Well, Charles Milverton, what have you to say?
Don't imagine that you can bully me. I have only to raise my voice, and I could call my servants and have you arrested.
You will ruin no more lives as you have ruined mine. Take that, you hound, Dad. And that. And that.
She had emptied barrel after barrel into Milverton's body. He shrank away and then fell forward upon the table, coughing furiously and clawing among the papers. The woman looked at him intently, and ground her heel into his upturned face. She looked again, but there was no sound. Then the avenger was gone. No interference could have saved the man, but as the woman poured bullet after bullet, I was about to spring out, when I felt Holmes's cold, strong grasp upon my wrist. Holmes slipped across to the safe, filled his 2 arms with bundles of letters, and poured them all into the fire. Again and again he did it, until the safe was empty. The letter which had been the messenger of death lay, all mottled with blood, upon the table. Holmes tossed it in among the blazing papers. Looking back, the huge house was one blaze of light. The whole garden was alive with people.
This way, Watson, we can scale the garden wall in this direction.
It was a 6-foot wall. Holmes sprang to the top and over. As I did the same I felt the hand of the man behind me grab at my ankle, but I kicked myself free. We had run 2 miles before Holmes at last halted. All was absolute silence behind us. We had shaken off our pursuers and were safe. The next morning Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard was ushered into our sitting room.
Good morning, Mr. Holmes. I know how keen you are upon these things. The second criminal was caught by the under gardener, and only got away after a struggle. He was a middle-sized, strongly built man, square jaw, thick neck, mustache.
That's rather vague. Why, it might be a description of Watson?
It's true. It might be a description of Watson.
I think there are certain crimes which the law cannot touch, and which therefore, to some extent, justify private revenge. I will not handle this case.
Later, Holmes hurried me to a shop window filled with photographs of celebrities. I saw the picture of a regal and stately lady in court dress. I caught my breath as I read the time, honored title of the great nobleman whose wife she had been. My eyes met those of Holmes, and he put his finger to his lips.